Well, you also, after Idol, made a little movie called From Justin to Kelly.
I did.
How was that? I mean, Kelly Clarkson recently said, she didn't want to make this. She begged
Sure.
to be let out of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It was not her favorite idea for sure. Um, and I mean, for me, I that was where I'd come from, right? And so it was a different experience for me because I had dreamed of being in a huge film. I had dreamed of, singing and acting and dancing and being in a musical because I was that kid who was back in the day. I think it was like maybe fourth or fifth grade. I was at Bonnie Bray Elementary in Fairfax, Virginia, and I was what was called a latchkey kid back in the day, right? Right. Those of you who know what that means. And so instead of going home one day, and some days during the week, our school would have a little after school program for the latchkey kids. And one day, somebody wheeled in the old squeaky AV cart with the TV that was strapped down and the VHS player. And they popped in this VHS tape, and up came West Side Story. And it was the first time I'd ever seen it. And I tell you, I don't remember breathing throughout most of that uh, experience because it sang to me. Literally, right? The whole thing just clicked in my brain and made sense. And it was another one of those moments, right? Like that 8-year-old me who was like, I want to do that. Like it was that same sort of moment. I didn't say I want to do that, but I knew that it affected me on such a deep level because I went out after that and went to my mom and dad's car, and on the way, the pathway to get to their car, I was doing probably what was a horrible version of the Robbins choreography and dancing and moving around and snapping and all the things, and I felt like I could fly when I was doing it. And it was so inspiring that it was the catalyst then for me to want to go on and continue being a part of, or just be a part of theater in any way that I could be.
So it was a better experience for you than Kelly, apparently.
I absolutely loved the experience, 100%. And I was that guy who, instead of, just sitting in a trailer like some people will do in between takes, I was the guy who would go to Video Village and just kind of lurk behind the producer's chair and behind the director and just watch the process because I was fascinated by the super techno on the boom, right? I was fascinated by how the sound worked. I was fascinated by how the first AD had this little lanyard with this loop that had this dark lens on it, and what he would do is he would put it up to the sun to see when the clouds were going to move out of the way so that they could start filming. I would talk to the grips, I would talk to the lighting folks and the cinematographer, and I just wanted to absorb as much information as I could because I knew instinctively at the time, I knew that if I learned how all of those people worked, that I would ultimately become a better actor. That I would ultimately, if I watched in Video Village enough and I saw how the director was shooting everything, I would know that when I was on the other side of the camera, I could, in some certain ways, anticipate what he wanted. I could anticipate the angles and the movements that would look the best. And that's how I operate in all of the things that I do, right? Even in musical theater now, as much as I know about it, when we're doing tech, I love sitting out there with all of the different crews and just stopping by all the different tables and just listening, being a fly on the wall, seeing how they make the calls, how they do all the things, because I know that at some point I'm going to learn something that makes me a better performer. And I'm going to learn something that, if people are, or if I get tired of it, or if people get tired of seeing me on the stage or on the screen, that I can then transition much more easily into really the more lucrative aspect of our business of actually producing and directing and creating products and projects.
That makes
So,
sense. I mean,
yeah.
you're there, you might as well learn something.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a passion, really.
What about when it came out and then, panned by the critics, one of the worst
Hmm.
movies of all time? Do you think it's a bad movie?
No. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it is what it is, right? I think it means something to some people who want to watch it with a critical eye. I think it also means something really fun to a lot of people who continue to come up to me and tell me how much they love it, how much they loved watching it, that they went to see it in the theaters, which baffles me because it was like literally in the theaters for 5 minutes. And it's just this really cool thing that I feel like I did and I got to be a part of. And I just love more than anything, more than the movie itself, I love how the American Idol experience, that movie, the American Idol tour, the Vegas show that we did, I just love how those experiences brought families together, created memories for people. You know, in and of themselves, you can criticize them all you want, and that's totally fine. I'm fine with that. um, but as a whole, so many people come up to me and say, you know, I loved watching that show because I could sit down with my mother-in-law and my kids and my family, and I knew that I would never have to explain anything to my kids. I'd never have to worry about any cursing. I knew that we could all experience this thing together and enjoy it together. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, that's truly the legacy of the whole American Idol experience.